ADHD brains have a simple time frame structure, now and not now. Wonder why you always miss deadlines, always late, schedule is always messed up, and always losing track of time? Never enough time. Well, today I have Eric Tuckman, an ADHD expert, psychologist, author of 4 books. He's an international presenter and ADHD thought leader. He's got a new book coming out today, or soon, sorry, called the ADHD Productivity Manual. And he's here today to talk about time blindness. Ari, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is such an awesome topic. I love talking about it.
Well, I've been thinking about this a long time because there's not too many things that really hits me on the side of the head when I hear simple words without explanations. And one was Dr. Dodson's concept of NECUP and the ADHD nervous system. Interesting, challenging, novel, urgent, and passion. And then when you talked about, because I heard you on the Attitude webinar about time blindness, and you're blind to time. I had to pull over my car and just say, stop on the side of the road, because that just explained a lot. And then when you went more in depth, it was like, oh my Lord. And as an ADHD entrepreneur, we get trapped in this a lot. So before we get into this, a little bit of a background, because you're just not a fresh puppy here. Like you've been around a long time and you know a lot of stuff about the ADHD brain.
Yeah. No, I've been focused on ADHD, particularly adult ADHD, for like 25 years. So back in the old days when I started, nobody was doing adult ADHD, right? We're seeing kids and teens, but magically somehow, I guess you get a high school diploma and your ADHD disappears. You know, if only that was true. Ask your wife how that's working out. The field has evolved a lot over the years, and adults with ADHD are getting a lot more attention, which is good.
Yeah. And then the next level is the successful people. That's also been a misunderstood or ignored area as well. So let's start right off. What is time blindness?
So, time blindness, it's not like, obviously, you're not like totally blind to time. I think you need like some serious brain injury for that to occur, but rather that, like, just in general, kind of broadly speaking, folks with ADHD they have more difficulty like seeing time, as in like, how long have I been doing what I'm doing? How long do I have? How long is it going to take me to do this thing? Right. So folks with ADHD are big underestimators, or perhaps they're big optimists. Optimistically, this could take 20 minutes. In real life, it's like a half hour
or a 2-day project.
Right, exactly. If everything works out, it's this amount, but that never ever happens, right? So like underestimating how long things take, which then causes you to run late or to miss deadlines. So, it has a lot of impacts on your daily life. And certainly if we talk about work and business, right, it has a big effect on your ability to kind of hit the mark on what you need to do. But also, I mean, if it is, like you said, a 2-day project, maybe it's not worth doing, right? If it's a 4-hour project, it's, your return on investment's pretty good. Yeah, do that. But if you're going to be screwing around for 2 days, maybe it isn't worth it. Maybe you shouldn't have started it. But the problem is you're a day and a half in before you realize. So, that losing track of time absolutely impacts your ability to sort of chase and sort of take advantage of opportunities, and carries cost in terms of time, in terms of stress, in terms of other people's work, and in terms of opportunity cost.
Oh, opportunity cost. That's a good word.
Yeah.
So what about so some of the ADHD challenges around time blindness? You said one was perceiving time. Time sequencing was an interesting phrase that you were talking about. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, some things, it doesn't really matter what order you do them in, right? I got a bunch of stuff to do, it's like whatever, but sometimes it does matter in this sense of, ooh, I got to call her back. Wait a second, when is she available again? Like if you miss your window, it matters, or is this the more important thing to do first? And it's fine if I do that later, or actually is later a worse time to do it, right? So if you sort of procrastinate on the sort of cognitively more demanding task and instead do the easier stuff, maybe later other stuff comes up and or you just don't have the brain power anymore, right? Because you've spent it.
Yeah, the
And,
mental energy. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And, like that's going to make it harder to do a good job and to get it done or to be pleasant to be around as you're getting peppered and interrupted. And, you realize, uh-oh, this ain't working out here.
Yeah. What about time reproduction? You said something about repeating a task same amount of time you did already. It's a challenge for the ADHD brain.
It can be. I mean, some of it is, I don't know, random things outside of your control come up, right? So usually it takes you 20 minutes to do your billing, let's say, but, random things, and this time it took you longer. But also sometimes it's, us ourselves, right? Like, do you do the same thing in a consistent and predictable way? Or do you get interrupted? Do you get distracted? Or you like, oh, wait, I just remembered I need to call that guy back.
Mhm.
So like that adds a lot of variability as well. So that ability to predict time also involves then the execution of that task, right? Like managing things during that time to be like, ooh, I should call that guy back, but not now, right? Scribble a note, set a reminder, whatever. That's not the thing I'm doing now.
So is time blindness just an ADHD brain thing, or is it affects other people, or is it more pronounced in ADHD? I'm a little bit lost on that concept or idea.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's definitely not unique to ADHD. So, you know, I don't know, just in general, some people are better at time and some people are worse, right? It's like any other
Hmm.
ability, right? Some people are better and worse. But, certainly if you're sleep deprived, you're probably not going to be as sharp. If you're depressed or anxious, if you're drunk or hungover, if you're tired,
Yep.
if you're, I don't know, preoccupied by big stressful events or grief or whatever, so like lots of things can affect our cognitive abilities. But, I've aligned that ADHD doesn't invent new problems. It just exacerbates the universal ones, right? So like we all struggle with time to some greater or lesser degree. We all underestimate, we all get caught up and lose track of time. Like this is not unique to ADHD. It's just like more often.
Right. So, and it's can be on the spectrum as well in the ADHD
Yeah.
world. Either it's very good or very bad
Yeah.
in comparison. Temporal discounting. If we got a
Yes.
now and not now time frame, which to me that was another mind blowing thing, because if it's not now,
Hmm.
it's forever. The
Sure.
temporal discounting. Do you want to go a little bit more on that? Because I'm pretty sure the listeners are really going to go, oh, I get this
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Anybody who took and remembers anything from probably Econ 101 or 102 might know this term. So, uh, basically, temporal discounting involves the ability to feel the future, right? So, these are those situations where the further away the outcome or consequence is, the less we feel it right now. And here's the example I would give. If, we announced, hey, we need, recording screwed up, the AI thing isn't working. We need someone to just bang out a 2-paragraph summary of this podcast interview,
Mhm.
right? And here's the best part, we're going to give you $200 to do it. Probably a lot of our listeners would be like, yeah, that's dude, $200. Yeah. But if we then said, okay, but here's the thing, the accounting is a little bit weird, but like don't ask, kind of a long story. Like you're definitely getting your 200, but it's not going to be until 2025,
Oh,
right? Once we hit January, New Year, you're getting your $200. Do you feel exactly the same amount of motivation for $200 tomorrow as you do for $200 as of this moment 5 months from now? And the answer is
no,
no, no, you
no,
don't. Like it
too
does
far.
not feel like the same amount of money, right? That is temporal discounting. It is exactly the thing, and it explains a lot of what people do, but it really explains a lot of what people with ADHD do, right? So when you've got your big deadline on Friday and now it's Monday, you're like,
Yeah,
whatever, who cares?
I
It'll be
got lots
fine.
of time. I got lots of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, whatever. I'm cool. Thursday night, holy crap now, right? But your non-ADHD friends and possibly relatives, right? On Monday, some of them are like, oh man, I really better get going, right? They're feeling Friday on Monday, right? They feel the pressure of that deadline much, much sooner. And this is why folks with ADHD tend to procrastinate more because they don't feel Friday until like Thursday night or maybe Friday morning or possibly Saturday, right?
Yep.
So, but like again, this is a normal human thing. We all do this, right? We all stay up a little bit late because we love the fun of right now. And then
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, when we feel like crap all day because we didn't get enough sleep, then we're like, oh man, why did I do that? And we know it's coming. It's not like you've never stayed up late and you don't know what's going to happen, but we discount it. We're like, whatever, it'll be fine. Or when we're hungry and we're like, I'm going to order the jumbo fries because that looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then as soon as we're done, we're like ready to
Yeah.
barf because we're like, ugh, why did I do that? Again, rather predictable, but somehow we don't know that in the moment, right? We don't feel it in the moment.
Yeah, and for me, that's a lot of my financial woes while undiagnosed had to do a lot with this.
Yes.
Planning for, 20 years old, planning my retirement at 65 or 70. Whoa, that's far. That's like whatever. I'm okay right now. Financial planning for
Sure.
investments. To you, how much I can make in 30 years, I really lose track. I just, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't feel it. I like this sense, like I never thought of it this way as feeling the future, because the other thing too you described in the past, like temporal discounting would have a lot to do with our time horizon.
Hmm. Yep.
Do you want to explain a little more what the time horizon is? I think it's a very key concept for us to understand, because when I learned mine, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So time horizon is how far out in the future does something need to be for you to start kind of beginning to think about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that could be like, I've got that big work deadline on Friday. It could be like, with this coming weekend, when do you start thinking about, oh, I wonder, should I make some plans? Should I call some people? Like, what are we doing? Um, but it's also for other things like, I mean, I don't know. This is kind of an example I often use because frankly, because I got a pretty good joke at the end. But um, like if we talk about summer camp, right? The time to find summer camp for your kids is not when it's summer, right? Like the time to find summer camp is when it's still cold out,
Right.
right? Because if you wait until it's summer, the only options, the only summer camp that has openings, right, is juvie. Like you better hope your kids get arrested because otherwise they're going to have nothing to do all week,
Right.
So like that the time horizon on summer camp needs to be much further out. And if we talk about running your business, same deal, right? Like a lot of stuff, it's not this week and it's not tomorrow, but it's in a month or in a year or even 5 years, right? Like that, you need to be thinking out that far, right? That's the time
Mm-hmm.
horizon of beginning to think about it. But then the temporal discounting and feeling the future is feeling it now, of like, right now, I need to start working on and doing some stuff for that thing that may not happen for 3 years from now.
Right. So is time horizon also how far I can see in the future? That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that sort of like, does it hit your mental radar? Does it begin to sort of bubble around
Mm-hmm.
in your thinking?
Like for me, I
Um,
discovered it's a week and a half. That's pushing my limit. If you say let's meet in 2 weeks, I'll agree to it. No problem. That's a lot of time. We'll figure stuff out.
mhm.
And a lot of times I like short-term projects that are quick, because I don't know why, but for some reason I had a sense that after a week and a half, I would lose interest in a project and I'd really have to work hard to get it.
Yep.
Or that's a big project that'll take 3 months. And I got so much time to do that. But then it's 2 months in going, I need to do a 3 month project in 1 month. Does that have a bit? Well, that'd be a combination
Mhm.
of the temporal discounting and the time horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so that sense that your time horizon is about a week and a half, like, absolutely, right? Like, that is definitely, it's good to know. But also, because you know that, it means you need to be much more intentional about activating on things that go beyond a week and a
Hmm.
half into the future. Like, if you have that 3-month project, you need to do something different other than just, like, standard operating procedures kind of thing. So, that might be breaking it out. I mean, this is like the obvious stuff, but breaking it out. What are my interim deadlines? Maybe scheduling in time every week to work on it, maybe setting up some external accountability,
Yeah.
other things like that, to be really, really intentional about it. It's sort of, I don't know, like, this is kind of a recent. So I went to Scotland this summer, which is super cool, but they drive on the left side. And talk about being incredibly intentional. I don't think about anything when I drive here, right? Like,
Hmm.
whatever. But I was unbelievably intentional about every moment behind the wheel in Scotland, right? It's kind of exactly the same thing, right? Where you need to be really intentional, and you can't just be like, it'll work out, because
Yeah.
that's a lovely thought, but rarely does history support, right? Your track record doesn't support that that's going to be the case. So it's that being honest with yourself and not talking yourself into, I think, what I'll think about it later. I'll work it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then for me, what I do with my clients, I work about making time visible,
Yes.
not hidden on my calendar on digitally. Like projects I need activated, like always, it's right there, a
Hmm.
list of projects I need to be mindful of all the time, or
Yes.
goals, or that's one way to make it visible. And delegation is another key one. I
Yeah.
got an engineering team that love to work on long-term projects. So I give them the control of the schedule, and then they let me know when they need me. So there's a lot of different
Yeah.
ways, but for me, it's been either delegating the tracking of time
Hmm.
or making it visible and stuff, especially with the goals. And I like your idea about breaking them down more. So if I'm going to make $200 over a 3-month period, maybe I got to relook at it. Well, tomorrow I might make 10, then they'll make
Hmm.
20 within that time horizon frame.
Yeah. And
So
I think, the thing about making it visible, I mean, it's Russell Barkley's, advice of externalize it, right?
yeah,
Don't keep it internally inside your head of, I'm just going to remember things, because let's be honest, no, we don't, right? We don't,
yeah,
our memory never works as well as we hope it will. Um, so making it visible, taking it outside of your head, so it's not sort of out of sight, out of mind. Um, Makes it much more likely to happen. Absolutely delegate if you can, especially to people who are better at it.
mm-hmm.
And, one of the bits of advice I give to clients, who have ADHD and are kind of running some things is, don't hire a wimp for an assistant, right? Hire someone who's got a backbone, who can kick your ass a little bit and can say, no, seriously, you need to get me that proposal by the end of today. I'm not going to say I'm taking your phone, but seriously, like, you need to do this, right?
That is
Like,
so true. That is so
yeah.
true. You got to take the ego out of yourself, and that's it. Because I felt like for externalizing, the more I talk to my team, all right, guys, this is a 2-week project. They'll actually go, no, that's actually longer.
Right.
And please explain. And like, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Makes
Hmm.
sense to me now. But yeah, if you externalize it, then you get input from others as well. And I really like that. Don't have a wimp as an assistant, because that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's to take it well, right? Don't
Yeah.
punish people's honesty, and then be surprised at how things work out later. So yeah, I mean, recognizing,
And that's being intentional,
or
right? Having an
yeah,
assistant that's not a wimp, that's an intentional hire so that you can intentionally stay on track.
yeah.
Cool. I like
And to
that.
tell them, I
Hmm.
do not want a yes man.
Hmm.
I need you to tell me your honest advice. I may not always follow it, but I need you to tell me. And then you need to then, like, respond well to it.
Yeah.
Um, which again doesn't mean you always follow it or agree, but at least you sort of behave well when they give it to you, and maybe have some conversation about what we're doing here.
Hmm.
Um, but I think, to the extent that you have the luxury being able to delegate, I mean, it sounds like you've hired the people who can do that thing that you don't do well and probably don't want to do anyway, right? So,
Exactly.
like,
Yep.
let them manage that process. You focus on the parts that you're actually best at, that
Mhm.
bring the most value to your business.
Yeah. Nice. So you said we're blind to time or observed, not that you said it, the temporal
Yeah.
discounting, and then now the time horizon thing. So we have a hard time feeling the future, which I really love that phraseology. We have a hard time seeing the future beyond our time horizon.
Hmm.
But a lot of us ADHD entrepreneurs are visionaries, which is
Yeah.
a future
Yeah.
reference thing. So how is it that if our heads in the future all the time, we're having problems with the future?
Yeah. No, that's a really clever question. And I actually had to think about it for a moment. So here's my answer. Having lots of awesome ideas, playing with ideas is one thing, right? And it can be really fun. And especially if you're good at it, like it can be pretty cool to do that. The rub is actually making it happen, right? A to B to C to D to da, 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 da,
Yeah.
all the way to Z, right? Like, so executing the ideas is a different skill set from having the ideas. So I think that's where the folks with ADHD sort of struggle more. It's the execution, and it's those, and not just maybe A to B, but like A1 to A2 to A3 to da 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 now
Yeah.
B, um that's the part that's harder, and this is where seeing time and feeling the future come in.
I like that distinction. Vision is playing with ideas, seeing the future, but to get there is the challenge for the ADHD brain or the time blind person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I knew you come up with a great answer for that. I love that. I love that. Do you have any final thoughts on time blindness for the ADHD entrepreneur? Because we got a lot of great tidbits here to process.
Yeah. I think the first thing is to just be honest and recognize it, admit it to yourself first, or to recognize actually, here are the places I do fine, or at least well enough, whatever. But
Mhm.
also like here are the places where it sort of shoots me in the foot. And from there to then figure out, okay, so now what do I do? Like, how do I actually manage this more effectively? What are the strategies that might be helpful here? If you're taking medication, is it working as well as it should? If you're not taking medication, maybe you want to think about it, because that can help with this. But regardless, to just really be intentional and to sort of actively manage it, and to not just sort of, I don't know, accept that things need to be chaotic, right? Because maybe
Yeah.
they don't. Maybe they have been thus far, but it doesn't mean that they have to be. Like, so don't be sort of limited by your past. And, this is part of why I think it's, for me personally, it's so gratifying to work in ADHD, is that it can really make a difference, right? When someone gets that diagnosis and they begin to seek out, better resources,
Mhm.
things really do change, right? So, like, if you haven't done that much about learning about ADHD or really addressing it, maybe you consider it, because, like, I think there are benefits to be reaped from it.
And for me, I tell when people want to meet in a week or two, I said that's too far away. I gotta get permission. Actually, I don't want to play with my calendar because I mess it up every
Mm,
time. So yeah, I'm just completely honest. That stuff, yeah, I'll take that project, but that's far away. So I need to go back and talk to the team about the execution because I'll promise anything because I think I can get it done in a
sure.
week. Um, and for me to just and then start not being ashamed of having stuff on the wall all over the
Yeah.
place. Like that's the way it is. Just like with my working memory, I need a logbook. It's just the way it is. I'm not ashamed of it. I just work with
Yeah.
it.
And I mean, the thing about it is, there's a lot of folks with ADHD who feel self-conscious about, like, you know, having, a logbook, or having,
Mhm.
their scheduler, or saying, hey, wait, let me check this first, right? Because the worry is, if I do that, people are going to realize how distracted and forgetful and disorganized I am. But I swear to you, it's exactly the opposite, right? If if you say, hold on a second, let me make sure I write this down, nobody thinks, wow, why does this guy's memory suck so much?
Yeah.
What people think is, awesome, he's taking it seriously. I'm glad he's writing it down. And also, faking it, you're not faking it. Like, seriously, if you don't write it down and you forget it and then you don't show up, that's like a million times worse, right?
Yeah.
So this,
Yeah.
don't like pretend that you're gonna like pull one over on people, right? And it is way better to be known as that guy who writes everything down than it is to be known as that guy who fricking forgets everything and doesn't do it.
Right. The guy who writes everything down and gets it done versus the one who
Yes.
doesn't write down and always disappoints. I think is the very key
Yes.
thing. Is it's just where we're raised, taught you're supposed to, if for successful people remember everything and I'm a superstar if I don't have blah, blah, that's called bullshit. That's just,
That's total crap, right?
yeah.
And here's my response to that. If you can remember inside your head everything you have going on in your life, you don't have enough going on in your life. Like, seriously, like once you hit about 7th grade, like that's it,
I love that.
So like, so if you say like, oh man, I got so much going on, hold on a sec, let me check my schedule. Everyone's gonna be like, yeah, obviously, like nobody's gonna blink when you say that, right?
Yeah,
You should
yeah.
have a busy life.
Yeah, and for the ADHD brain, we got to balance the busyness so we don't get too exhausted or a bad stress. But we need a lot of good eustress, the good stress to keep us going, I think. So,
Yeah.
wow, I can talk to you for hours, Ari. I appreciate your time here. So, for the listeners, these feeling the future is the challenge. Like I never
Yeah.
thought of that before. The feeling, it is so true. Everything you said it, I get it. I got it. Don't hire a wimp as an assistant. Perfectly true. Very good. And it can be life-saving. And envisioning the future is different than making it happen. And there's nothing wrong with it. You need the visionary entrepreneur to see where we can go and have the team execute. You don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, if I'm involved to getting it done, it pisses everyone off. It really, changed the way it goes. So to me, that's a great differentiator point there. And since we have a difference of time frames, now, not now, we are blind to not now. That's kind of the way I simplify it.
Yep.
And it's a brain thing. Make other things work for you, just like Ari said. So thank you so much, sir. Where can we find you? And can you talk more about your book that's coming out? I think this is very important for the listeners to hear.
Yeah. So, I mean, best place to find me is adultadhdbook.com. And if you go to the speaking page, I've got some recordings and stuff that's coming up and all. So, yeah. So the new book that I'm working on, I haven't finished yet. I didn't even have an agent. I haven't even talked to a publisher yet. So this is like brand new, but it's called the ADHD Productivity Manual. And it's based on a webinar series I did, a bunch of like 35 5 to 10 minute videos on productivity and all the different things that go into being productive, and therefore all the different things that get in our way of being productive. So I really do like a deep dive on all the different parts that go in. So again, on the speaking page of adultadhdbook.com, I got some links, I got a thing you can click there to get to it. It's easier than telling the, whatever. So, but I think it's important, right? And I think it's also important to highlight the fact that I did 35 videos means if you're struggling sometimes, it's not that simple, right? Like that's why you're struggling, right? And these like top 5 hacks, blah, blah, like, no, like I'm sure there's something there, but top is not just 5, right?
Yeah.
So really, really understanding how to be most effective, how to do the things that are meaningful and important, that add value to your business, that add value to your life, right? Like that's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Cool. Can't wait till that comes out. But I do recommend the listeners to check him out on YouTube and all the other presentations you have done, because there's very insightful, practical, and logical, which is very nice. You're not getting lost in all the science and the complicatedness. You keep it very simple. So that's why I got a lot of respect for what you do. Now, the listener, I got a question for you. How do you make your time visible and how do you feel it? So if you got any ideas or let me know. Send me an email, Andre@theimpulsivethinker.com. I would love to hear from you. And Ari, thanks again, my friend.
Awesome. So glad to be here. I love this stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, we can tell. And to the listener, thanks again for learning with me.